So for today's lesson, we'll talk about the measures of central tendency, and the mean is going to be the average of a numerical set of data. The mean is always going to be the sum of all the numbers divided by the total amount of numbers. The median is going to always be the middle number when the numbers are written in order, numerical order. If the data set has an even amount of numbers, then what you're going to do is the median will be the mean. Remember, that's just the average of the two middle numbers. The mode is the value that occurs most often in the data set. There may be no mode, no numbers repeat, one mode, one number repeats, or more than one mode. The range, which is not a measure of central tendency, but a range is something that we talk about often when we deal with statistics, and that's going to be the difference of the greatest value and the least value. Now that basically means the largest number subtracted by the smallest number. Okay. So your last 8 test scores are listed below. You want to find the mean, the median, the mode or modes, and the range. The first thing you have to do, though, is put these numbers in numerical order. So in numerical order, starting from the smallest to the largest, 81, 87, 91, 91, 93, 95, 98, and 100. So the mean, you're going to add all those numbers up and then divide by 8. So I've done this on the calculator already, and I know that the total of the numbers is 736 divided by 8, and my mean, my average, is 92. Well, the median, there are 8 numbers, so there's not one exact middle. There's 2 numbers in the middle. And your 2 middle numbers would be these guys right here, because there's 3 on either side of those 2. So the mean is the average of those 2. Add up 91 plus 93 divided by 2. You could probably even do that without the math. 92, this number that's supposed to be right smack here, is going to be your median. The modes, well, 91 is the only number that repeats, that appears most often. And the range, if I take my highest test score subtracted by my lowest test score, then my average is 19. Okay, so then the next question says, well, suppose that your friend's last 8 test scores were all 10 below yours. Find the mean, the median, the mode of your friends. And how do these measures of central tendency compare to yours? Well, if you think about it, if every score drops by 10, then every measure of central tendency should drop by 10 also. We're going to show you that that happens, but every measure of central tendency will decrease by 10. So if we think about the mean for a second, where your scores all added up to 736, if we subtract 10 points from each score, we're taking off a total of 80 points, which means the mean ends up becoming 656 divided by 8, and that equals 82, which is in fact 10 points lower than yours. Your median, well, when I put all those scores in order, and again, remember what's happening, I'm not going to do them all, but if I drop them all by 10, I'm going to have 71, I might as well do them all, 71, 77, 81, 81, 83, 85, 88, and 90. So now my middle scores will fall here, and that's going to be 82. So your median is 82. When I now do my mode is going to be the scores that repeated but dropped by 10. So my mode then ends up becoming 81. The range doesn't change, and that's something that you should understand. So while the measure of central tendency I'll decrease, the range stays the same. They're not asking you for the range, but assuming that they did, the range then just becomes 90 minus 71, which is still 19. So mean, median, and mode changes, but the range will stay the same. So here's just comparing measures of central tendency, and we'll read these out, but the idea is, when do you use the mean, the median, or the mode when you want to describe a whole bunch of data? You guys always ask for the class averages, but the averages are not always the best measures of central tendency to use, especially because there's something called outliers. So here's this first bullet. The mean can be a helpful measure of central tendency when the values are reasonably close. The mean of 76, 82, and 85 is 81, which is fairly representative of the members of the set in the set, so it is a good measure of central tendency. If a set of scores includes an outlier, a value that differs greatly from the others in the set, the mean is not a good measure of central tendency. Okay, so for example, if you wanted to find the average, the mean of 1, 2, 5, and 200, that's 52. But that's not representative of the 4 data values, because 200 is an outlier in a set with only a few data values. The mean is not a good measure of central tendency. The mode can be useful as a measure of central tendency when a set of data includes many of the same numbers. Okay, that's when mode is good to use. The median may be helpful as a measure of central tendency when a set of data includes numbers that are much smaller or much greater than most of the other numbers in the data set. So they tend to ask this question on the Regents about, here's the situation, what's the best measure of central tendency and why? And that happens in this next example. Amy wants to buy a house. Houses in her community are sold for, and you can read all that. What's the mean? The mean, when I add all those numbers up, the mean happens to be 1,106,000 divided by 7. So the mean happens to be 158,000. The median, there is one middle number when the numbers get put in order. I did not put them in order for you, but I trust that you can do that on your own. The median is 136,000. The mode, the number that repeats most often, is 140,000. And the range, when I subtract the highest from the lowest, by the lowest, is 270,000. Well, if you look at those numbers, I think you can see that there are definitely outliers. 350,000 is way too much. So I don't think the mean would ever be a good measure, representation or a measure of central tendency. I think it's between the median and the mode. And all you have to do in the Regents is state which one you think and then justify why. I think you could get credit for either one. But what I've done here is I've said I'm going to say that it's the median. And again, my reason might be different from yours, but I've got the median because when you remove the outliers, and that would be 80,000 and 350,000, when you remove those, the new mean, bring this up, the new mean is 135,200, which is closest to the median value. Okay, so I'm just saying that if you get rid of the 2 outliers and you find the mean there, you're going to get a number that basically is the median. So the median is the best. All right, that's it. Good luck on the homework.